NIO has a huge advantage now that they've announced and unveiled their second brand, Onvo, and their first model is going to be the L60. Now, I spent some time on the NIO site and on the Onvo site, and I'll share all the links, the tabs with you in the description if you want to click down below and check any or all of it out. One of the things I was looking for, and I reached out to global community members in the NIO community as well, because I was wondering if there had been an official announcement for BaaS pricing. As you see here on the Onvo site, the L60, and they have the pre-sale price starting from 219,900 yuan, but they didn't offer any BaaS option. The BaaS, of course, is if somebody doesn't want to purchase the battery and instead rent the battery. And the nice thing about that is this price is going to be lower because they'd be renting a battery monthly and then saving on the upfront cost. This is why NIO has a wonderful advantage in the mass market now that they're coming out with this vehicle. Now the deliveries are supposed to start in September, but initially, and I want to speak, just briefly touch on this. I'm not really hung up on it, but supposedly, and I've seen, 60,000, 65,000 supposedly as the pre-order numbers for this vehicle, the first sub-brand that NIO's come out with, their first model with that sub-brand. And I guess I think it's not unreasonable, but I'm not really too hung up on it. The reason I say it's not unreasonable is I believe NIO's goal is to have about 20,000 deliveries of this model monthly once it's, up and going. I don't know if they expect that initially, but with that being kind of the goal, it would make sense if maybe there's a 3X on that. But again, deliveries aren't starting until September, which is why I think NIO made a brilliant move in not announcing what the price with BaaS would be. See, that gives them flexibility and time to allow for the rest of the market to show what it's doing. And Mr. EQ is what I call him, William Lee. He kind of hinted at this before, that NIO had flexibility. And I don't think he was thinking just on the price point, but I think he was also thinking about the price point because, for example, if BYD is going to be providing the batteries and BYD may or may not end up as a partner of NIO's in the battery asset company or in another battery asset company, and more on that in just a second, I think that's something we have to keep in mind. But that also means the nature and the strategic nature of that partnership, however it plays out between NIO and BYD, can change the pricing and the price point. So I think NIO has great flexibility here. I think whatever the numbers end up being, I'm actually glad that they haven't announced them yet, because what better strategy than for NIO to wait until a little bit closer to the actual delivery time and then to announce what it will be and get the excitement and the hype and everything kind of stirred up at that point. I think that would be a brilliant move. And again, maybe they're still negotiating or structuring things in the background between BYD and NIO. I think this is something to keep in mind, which is why I wanted to offer it. And this is kind of in line with that. This is also from the NIO website. This was kind of nestled in there, what happened in April. And again, I'll link everything in all these tabs that I'm showing in the description so you can check them out. But this is the piece that caught my attention: battery asset management and operations, talking about the Lotus NIO partnership, kind of their strategic cooperation. And so when I see that verbiage, that reminds me, it makes me think of the battery asset company, the Wuhan Wening battery asset company, or Marathon. Typically, or historically, NIO's had 3 other partners in it. Others have wanted to be involved. They have expressed interest. And so what happens? Does NIO allow other partners into that one, or do they set up new entities with other partners? And BYD, Lotus, a couple who would be on that list among others. That's something I will be watching for and thinking about. I love the play by NIO in not giving the actual BaaS pricing yet, because they really do have that flexibility and there's no reason for them to come out and announce it initially. So although I think some people were puzzled by that, because typically NIO does that, right? When they announce a new model, they already have the pricing set and they offer it. Maybe they don't even have it set in stone. Maybe they're waiting to see what the rest of the mass market is doing at that time. Here's my other thought. I don't know if we really need to worry about Onvo cannibalizing sales from the NIO brand. NIO is still positioned with their premium sales, and that is the slowest piece of the market to move over to pure EVs. And so maybe it's at a 15% penetration rate for pure battery electric vehicles in that premium segment, but that's still an enormous piece of the market still to shift over. The German brands are still dominating, and it's still the gas vehicles, the ICE sales. So my thinking, and I'll be watching, especially once we see the June delivery numbers for NIO, we'll have an idea if those have dropped off, let's say from May, after folks have had the chance to see Onvo, and if they're deciding to, let's say, not buy NIO and go with Onvo or wait for Onvo, then I think it might get reflected in those sales. But I don't really think it's an issue. I think there's still so much of the highest end, that premium segment that needs to move over to pure EVs. I'm not terribly concerned about it, but I am wondering how quickly NIO can get up to, let's say, a 10 or 20,000 delivery number. Are we going to see that in September, October from this new brand? And if so, what are the premium sales looking like? Because I think they will have to be flirting with profitability, depending on what the numbers are overall, and then also the other revenues and what's come through at that point. So we'll get more here in the first quarter earnings. My guess on the first quarter earnings is they may announce those on June 5th. Have a great day. I will see you all again very soon.